Good morning, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Wayne's World of Science and Technologies, where I take a look at the world and try and explain it. Today we're going to look at Russia, and specifically the situation that they're having with certain equipment. Now, I follow odd things, elevators being one of them. According to this, Russia needs to replace 100,000 elevators by 2025. And if you scroll through the story, no funds exist for replacement. Millions of people who live in these apartment buildings are at risk. The number of elevator accidents has significantly increased recently. Local elevator equipment manufacturers are complaining about a lack of funds. So, why is this important? A certain amount of Russian elevator equipment was imported from the West, and that has become unavailable, or at least damn difficult to get. In the meantime, Russia is facing money issues, and we will get into why in just a moment, as we'll go to monthly analysis of Russian fossil fuel exports and sanctions. Now, this is where it gets real fun, because I'm going to skip the first part and just look at the long-term graph here. See how it was sitting at the start of 2022 and through most of 2022, and then it started tailing off in late 2022, and it has never recovered since. The Russian Federation set their budget based on a certain assumption about the price of oil. They also set their budget based on a certain assumption about how much, or I say oil, I mean hydrocarbons in general, how much they would sell. And this includes coal, oil, pipeline gas, the whole works. And as you can see, the drop-off in 2023, a couple of times it almost ticked back up to 750 million euros a day, but it's consistently been below 700 million, and quite often it's down to the 600 million mark as compared to being up to around 1 trillion a month prior. Or sorry, 1 billion a month. All makes sense to myself sooner or later. It's been a rough morning, what can I say? This means that, well, they don't have the money for their elevators, do they? Now, let's take another look at something else. Pressure at the pump. Ukraine resumes strikes on Russian oil refineries. This is has two effects. One effect is that Russia is now blocking the export of refined fuel products. They don't have enough for their own use. Second, it's probably going to up the amount of crude being shipped out because, well, hey, if they can't refine it, they've got to get rid of it somewhere, don't they? I have heard, just a second, I'm trying to remember which intelligence agency came up with it, that over 15% of Russian refining capacity is now offline. For how long, we don't know, but if Ukraine keeps on hitting it, it's going to be a long time. And we go over to here. Off the rails, disused trains, record low cargo capacity, and engine shortages. Okay, yeah, Ukraine has hit a couple, but freight volumes are low because of Western sanctions and dwindling flows of agricultural goods and construction materials. But the network is congested, not only with trains, but unused carriages. Yeah, they're trying to rush stuff to the front, and the unused carriages are taking up tracks. This is not unusual. Rail companies will park their unused carriages on disused tracks for long periods of time, depending upon the usage that they, if they have some extras, they'll park them rather than sell them off. It makes more sense because then they've got them in 2 or 3 years when business picks up. But they are short on personnel and locomotives to keep the system running. And those problems are getting worse. I wonder where the personnel went. As for the locomotives, every time Ukraine hits a locomotive, locomotives are long-term production items. You don't turn them out in a week. And so every single one that gets destroyed is I don't know how many months or in some cases even years to replace. And what does this mean? Well, nothing good. Russia is being heavily damaged by this, and it's going to severely impact their attempts to take over Ukraine. As a matter of fact, it already has. The Ukrainian long-range bombing campaign has probably been the most successful strategic bombing campaign that's ever been carried out. I'd say that myself. Now, I'm not a historian, so historians might disagree with me. But looking at it seriously, considering the amount of damage it's done for the amount of cost to Ukraine, they have gotten a huge return on investment. Anyways, that's it for today, folks. I'll be back later with something more. Have a nice day. Like, share, subscribe, and all that guff if you got something out of it, and I'll talk to you later. Bye-bye.